All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and start it here. So thank you all for joining. It's a very big group, so I'm happy with the turnout, and I'm excited to drop some knowledge on you guys. I'm excited to hear what Deb has to say. This is a very interesting opportunity for everyone in here, and that nobody in the land space has really gotten like true expertise and really had a conversation with anybody in the mailing industry. And we have one of the OG land printing connoisseurs in the house. We got Deb here. So if you guys have been in the business more than a year, I'm sure you've crossed paths with Deb. So Deb is with Rocket Print and Mail. She's kind of like the front and center spokesperson for Rocket Print in terms of the land investing space. So she's the lady to go to. I've been wanting to talk to her for a long time, so I'm finally happy to be in the same room virtually with her. And I'm excited for kind of the section we're going to have about mailing design and templates, so on and so forth, because she has a lot of knowledge on what works and what doesn't. And as you guys know, most of our knowledge comes from kind of the influencers in the space, the guys doing the land investing. But I'm excited to get some information from her and get to know what's really working in the space and what's going to give us a lot of deliverability. On my end, I'll be going over the strategies that are working in kind of the new market we've entered over the last year and a half. So there's a lot of strategies that have died out that don't work anymore and that are putting people out of the business. And there's the strategies that we're using that are helping us scale and go beyond what we've been able to do in our business. So I'll start with our intros. So we got Deb from Rocket Print, and then me, Rylan Loader. I'm the co-founder of Land Insights. We founded this company back in 2023, started as a market research platform, and now it's turned into basically the all-in-one platform for land investing. So marketing streams, I'm sure you guys have questions like what I'm doing for marketing. I've done mail in the past. Last year, I was very heavy on mail. This year, I'm doing mail and texting. Most of my mailing is actually going towards subdivisions. So that'll be a good thing to go over when we get to kind of the mailing design template section of the webinar, is what would work for something to really catch somebody's attention, really catch our sellers' attention, because that's becoming more and more important as basically there's lots of land investors in the space and we're all sending out the same looking letters. Like what can make us stand out? What color formats, what envelope designs work to really make us stand out, as that's becoming more and more important over the years. So today we're going to be going over kind of the basic beginnings of the land investing business. And in my opinion, the most important part of the land investing business, market research. So I'm sure some of you guys will be familiar with my methodology. If you're in LIA or you're a Land Insights user already, I'm sure you're very familiar with my methodology and how to do market research. But if you're not, if you're new to the space, market research is the most important part of the business. If you're choosing the wrong market, that's going to hurt you in every other aspect of the business. If you're working in northern Arizona, where there's hundreds of thousands of parcels of land that nobody uses and nobody lives close to, then you're not going to do well in this business. And unfortunately, back in 2018 through 2020, people were teaching that methodology is go buy a desert square in northern Arizona or southern Colorado in the middle of nowhere, buy it for $2,000, sell it on seller financing for $6,000, and then you have passive income. And as you guys know, that's not true at all. Passive income does not exist in this business. It's an active business, and to be honest, it's a full-time business. So that just doesn't work anymore. And when I came into the space in 2020, I did a couple of those deals. I did my first deal in Yavapai County, Arizona. And I got lucky because it was 2020, stimulus checks were going out. People wanted to buy land regardless of where it was located. So I simply just bought a piece of land that I used through Rocket Print. I mailed somebody out an offer at 50% of the value, listed on Facebook a month later, and sold it that month. for twice the price. I bought that for $14,000, sold it for $30,000 in a market in the middle of nowhere, 40 acres that I don't even think had legal access. And back in the day, we were able to get away with that. But as we reached 2021 and 2022, that type of business started to not work for any of us anymore. And I realized that very quickly, and I adapted, and I started toying with how to choose markets correctly. And ultimately, we came up with the methodology that I'll teach today with Land Insights is market selection. So what works now is choosing markets where people live and where there's active demand. Now, basically, like in 2020, we were buying pieces for $3,000, selling them for $7,000. But now in my business, our minimum acquisition price is about $20,000, and we'll go all the way up to $2 million. So the business that works nowadays is going after properties that are worth much more, because at the end of the day, buying and selling a property that's worth $100,000 is just the same amount of work as buying a property that's worth $6,000. So the same process goes for both these business models. So why not go after these bigger pieces that actually have demand and actually have equity and stability in that market so that it'll sell and you'll feel confident holding on to that piece. Now, I'd feel very confident holding on to a piece of land like 2 hours outside Raleigh, North Carolina. But if I was holding on to a piece in northern Arizona nowadays, I'd be very scared because there's only so many points in time where people actually would buy that piece of land. In 2025, people don't want those pieces anymore. There's too many pieces on the market, and basically there's no demand in that market. So we have a lot of supply and very low demand in those horrible markets in northern Arizona, Colorado, a lot of the West. Whereas like places like North Carolina, the Research Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, basically all of like the flat areas in North Carolina, there's a lot of demand right now. And there's tons of other markets throughout the country that you can find and be able to identify with our platform. But I just wanted to go over that business model that's working for us. So basically, larger acreage, more expensive pieces of property in high demand areas with limited supply. So I'm going to throw a poll out to all of you guys. And this poll is going to be, how are you currently selecting your markets? I'm going to start this poll and you guys can answer. So how are you currently selecting your markets? A, manually through Redfin or Zillow. B, pick counties based on economic trends. C, through a data platform like DataTree or PropStream. Or D, haven't selected markets yet. I'm new. Oh, I haven't published it yet. Mm-hmm. There we go. Now it's published. All right, I'm seeing a lot of results in DataTree and PropStream, which I find very interesting. Like you guys are determining the market that you want to go after through a data platform that has no insights. Anybody who answered C, the data software, please go ahead and share your strategy if you don't mind on how you're choosing those markets. A lot of people are saying Land Insights. No option for Land Insights. My bad, guys. MLS access.
Days on market.
Days on market, yep. A lot of people are asking, how do you choose a market? I'm going to go over that today live. So Ari asked in the chat, how do you know what the higher demand areas are? So ultimately, we want to see the magic numbers that tells us supply and demand. So to identify a high demand market, you want to find an area that has a limited supply and a demand that exceeds that active supply. That's ideal. Sometimes they'll be matched up, which means it's a healthy market. Let's say there's 100 active properties for sale on the market, and over the last year, 100 sold. That would tell us that it's a very healthy market. Even if maybe there's 80 that sold and there's still 100 on the active on the market, that's still telling us there's a decent supply and demand ratio. We created the terminology sell-through rate inside Land Insights, which is the rate at which properties sell compared to what is listed. So a 100% sell-through rate would be 100 active properties and 100 sold in the last year. So a 1 year sell-through rate of 100% is 100 active currently on the market and 100 sold in the last year. So we'll be going over that in depth on the platform today. But ultimately, like, what we want to see is, where is the demand at? And the only way you can quantify that is looking at the properties that sold in the past, the properties that actually sold, the properties that are pending under contract. And we've aggregated all of that data throughout the country and have been able to easily share that information, share that data, and have the ability to filter all of that data out. I'm trying to look for any interesting responses in here. Let's see. Economic indicators. I like that, Todd. So Mark asks, how does off-market properties play into these numbers? So I do not like to go off of our off-market properties because that isn't showing us like marketplace demand. Our goal as land investors is to buy land off market and bring it onto the market at market value or slightly under that and sell it as quickly as possible. Now, I don't care about the off market acquisitions because those weren't listed on the market. So maybe some land investor bought it and it was a terrible market, or maybe a neighbor bought it off their neighbor. Like, that wasn't a listed property on the market. Therefore, we can't quantify that it has demand. So we're only going off of properties that have been listed on the market. So all the data that you'll see inside Land Insights that shows us the supply and demand, those are from properties that were actually listed on the MLS, on the market, and were sold or haven't sold yet. All right, guys. So a lot of Land Insights users in here. So appreciate you guys attending. There's going to be a lot of information that you guys haven't been introduced yet through Rocket Print, so stay tuned for that. But a lot of this is going to be a little repetitive for you guys, but everyone else that isn't familiar with our product, I'm going to go into market research, and the best way to do that is to actually pull up the tool. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the tool, share my screen. How's that looking for you guys? Can you guys see these data points that I'm pulling up? Let me know if you guys can see those numbers. If not, I'll adjust the screen. Perfect. All right, so this is Land Insights. This is our market research tool. This is what Land Insights was built off of. In the beginning of the land business, choosing a market was very, very difficult without this data. What I would do back in 2020 and 2021 is I would manually go through Redfin and I would set my criteria for the land I want to go after. I would set my criteria 5 to 40 acres. And I would start aggregating how many properties are listed for sale in that market, write it down on an Excel spreadsheet, go to sold, how many have sold in that market, put it in the spreadsheet. I would literally go back and forth between Redfin and pull this data. And basically that would take hours and hours and hours of time. At one point I had a VA working full time pulling these numbers, and he was only able to get like one state worth of data per month. So basically we were figuring out like how can we come up with a database that has all this information for the entire country, because as land investors, we want to hit new markets. We constantly want to target new markets that have high demand, but we don't have the data for that. So that's why Land Insights was built. Is we built a system that pulls all the.
You have a lot of people who are saying they can't see it.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a lot of people. I didn't want to interrupt, but you have quite a few.
Okay, let me adjust.
I think it's too small and blurry is what the main comments are.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Deb, maybe try turning your video off.
How do I had my tech support set this up. How do I?
You go to the top and there should be like the image. If you hover over the top buttons with the icons.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, I'm not finding it.
Oh, I turned it off for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I was just going to.
Is that better, guys? Let me know in the comments. Did it make it bigger? Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. All right, guys, we're good. Let me know if that's better. All right, guys, my apologies. 4 years of engineering school didn't do me too well. All right. Okay, let's get into this. All right, so this is our data platform. So I've got this pulled up. We can always minimize or mess with our screen a little bit, but basically we have our data platform. This shows us all the data for the United States, all of the active and sold properties, and a ton of other data to go with that. But I'm going to go over my framework of how I choose a high demand county. So we have data for all of these different parts of a MLS listing. So we can quantify what's currently active on the market, what's pending, so what has a contract to purchase the piece of land, what is sold in the last 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and then we have our STR calculations. Again, STR stands for sell-through rate. So that ratio that I brought up earlier, basically if you have 100 active properties and 100 that sold in the last year, that 1 year sell-through rate would be 100%. If there were 100 active and 50 sold in the last year, that would be a 50% sell-through rate. So we're ideally looking for higher sell-through rates. And then we're also looking at average days on market. So what we have in our data set is we have all these MLS listings and we have the timelines at which they were listed and sold at. So if a property was listed on January 1st, January 30th, that days on market would be 30 days for it to sell. So what we do is we bring in all the MLS listings in our acreage band range that we choose, and we take the average days on market. So that can also tell us what the demand is for properties in that area. So we have two different ways of telling that demand: sell-through rate and average days on market. So what I like to go after initially in my findings is I will unselect everything, and I'm going to select are active. I'm going to select pending. I'm going to select 6 months sold quantity, 1 year sold quantity. I'll put in our pending sell-through rate, 6 month, 1 year sell-through rate. So this is telling us like basically the supply amount. So how many are, what the supply is. This is telling us how many are pending right now. And then these are our quantities that are sold. And I'm also going to put average days on market for 1 year. I don't do 1 month, 3 month, or 6 month because there's not as much data in that data set. I'd rather have as much data as possible in the average days on market so we feel good about our statistics. Now there's other data points. I don't use these a whole bunch, but you can determine basically the median price at what these are selling at, the median active price per acre. So basically you can determine what the values are of land selling. But my whole business model is I like to go after rural acreage. So usually anything over 5 acres, usually like 5 to 200 acres is land that I'll buy, because in this market today, it's a little harder to sell infill lots that are half an acre large because builders aren't just building as much. In certain areas, yes, they are building, but at the end of the day, rural acreage or like just larger acreage, there's more demand because you have a larger buyer pool. You have people who may want to build a house, people who may want to build a dirt bike track, people who want to start a mini farm. You might have commercial buyers out there. So when you go bigger in acreage, you have a larger buyer pool. So I really understood that back in 2021. And I started going after stuff that's larger because that buyer pool is much larger. So usually the way I determine like price, like basically I don't want to buy a piece of land that's worth 40 grand or less. I'll just go on Redfin and I'll look up that acreage. So let's say I'll pull up maybe like 2 to 100 acres. I'll look at what the smallest piece of land is that's selling at 40K on average. And then I'll just put that as my minimum acreage, and then I'll go up from there. But generally, I'm going after like 5 acres and above. Sometimes I'll go down to 3 if we're in a more expensive market. But at the end of the day, like smaller property, acre or an acre, they're just harder to sell nowadays. And then you'll also run into situations where maybe you can't fit a well and a septic on that property. In most counties, you usually can't fit a well and a septic on the property if it's half an acre. But if you're above an acre, you might be able to pull that off. But if you buy a 5 acre, you've got a lot of room to work with. Some areas might not work, but some may. Whereas if you're working with a half an acre property, even if you can put a well and septic on that property, there might be a wetland or a flood zone, and it might not perk in the area where it's critical for it to perk. And then it's just worthless because you can't build on it. So to make up for that, I just go after bigger acreage. And at the end of the day, it's just easier to buy, it's easier to underwrite, and it's easier to sell. So that's my mentality with that. Now we'll go into Gini in a second, but Gini is going to tell us how easy it is to price that market. So I'll go over that in a minute. But for now, these are basically the main tool tips that I'm personally using. Okay. So now that we got our tooltips chosen, when we hover over, we'll see those tooltips and the numbers that are respective for that data when we hover over every county. So the way I choose a market is I'm going to choose my acreage range first. So again, I like rural acreage, so I'm going to only pull in data that's 5 to 100 acres. 5 to 100 acres right here. So generally what I'm buying is about 5 to 100 acres. Sometimes I'll buy a 200 acre here and there, but for most of you guys, you're probably going after this rural acreage range, and this is what's working with a lot of people in our space at the moment. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my heat map. So the heat map tells us, it color codes based on the data that we want to heat map. So heat mapping active, if it's yellow, that means there's a lot listed in that market. So Humboldt County, Nevada, there's 125 active. That's why it's yellow. It's much higher. Whereas you go to this more purple looking place, it's only 7 active in this county. But I don't like to heat map active because that's just telling me supply. I like to go off of sell-through rate. So I'm going to heat map 6-month sell-through rate, which kind of tells us what's going on this year. Over the last 6 months, where is land selling at the moment? Where's the real demand out? And in some places, we'll have limited supply because some of these are non-disclosures, and I'll go over the workaround with non-disclosure in a second. But if you guys don't know what a non-disclosure state is they won't release, they won't keep properties on the MLS when they sell. They won't report it. But there is a workaround. If you look at pending, if a property is under contract to sell, it's still going to be up. So that's kind of the substitute for sell-through rate and sold quantities. But I'm just going to choose a state. I'm going to choose Tennessee. Tennessee's been a very hot state over the last 5 years. A lot of people are moving out there. Red state, good tax incentives, cheaper land. So I always choose a state to begin with because you don't want to compare one county in one state to another county in another state. It's all relative. So you always want to go relative. So I always start by choosing a state. So I've chosen Tennessee. So now we got the whole state of Tennessee chosen, and we can look at what's hot right now. So anything yellow is telling us, hey, there's a really high rate of sales compared to active supply. So as you can see here, Crockett County, Tennessee, there's 8 active on the market right now in 5 to 100 acres. And 19 have sold in the last year, 8 have sold in the last 6 months. So it's a 100% 6-month sell-through rate. Average days on market are very high, though. Over the last year, it's 436 days average that a property is listed before it sold. Let's go to another one. So this one, Weakley County, Tennessee, 17 active. We have 13 sold in the last 6 months. We have an average days on market of 251 days, which is much better. So what I'm doing is I'm always looking at sell-through rate, and then I'm looking at days on market. I'm kind of ranking them amongst each other. So what we can do in this spreadsheet we have here is we can set criteria. So if you guys understand statistics, we want a larger sample size. So I'm going to put our active, I'm going to make it greater than 8. Okay. So that's going to remove some from our data set, not too much. Maybe let's make it 12. All right. And then I'm going to put a criteria on our average days on market. I want it less than, let's say 200 days. Okay, so that's really lowered our data set. Now it's really telling us like where the best counties are. What you'll notice is like a lot of stuff outside Nashville is selling. These are all like maybe 1 to 2 hours away from Nashville, where land is cheaper. As you guys know, Nashville, the market's hot, everyone's moving there, but land's expensive there. So not a lot of people can afford it, but people are willing to make that commute, and people want larger acreage outside of this major metro. So you'll see Smith County, Tennessee, 50 active, 5 pending, 52 sold in the last year. Average days on market is 199 days. It's showing us really good numbers. And another thing we can do is we can filter these in descending order or ascending order. So we'll see that, let's filter by 6 months. We'll see that Trousdale, Tennessee, it has a 77% sell-through rate over the last 6 months, but the pending is kind of low right now. Whereas Smith County, Tennessee, there's 62% sell-through rate over the last 6 months and a pending sell-through rate of 10%. So 50 active, 5 pending, 31 sold in the last 6 months. I really like this market. So I'm just going to add this. Okay. And I'm going to choose 2 other counties that pique my interest in terms of demand. So Smith County, there's Highway 40 right there. If you guys know Highway 40, you've driven across the country. This is the main highway that you usually drive across. And it's a very fast highway. If you live in Carthage, it's going to be an easy commute to Nashville. There's a lot of rural land out here. And yeah, it's a prime location. So I'm going to choose one more pieces that really pique my interest. So let's go down this list. There's in Chester County, there's 26 active, 5 pending, 16 sold in the last 6 months. Our average days on market is at 152. That's pretty promising. I mean, these top 10 counties are all really good counties. Let's see where this Chester County is. Over here, we're in a more rural part of Tennessee. I've actually done a deal here myself. It sold pretty quickly. 26 active, 5 pending, 26 sold in the last year. Okay. Let's see what has really high pending sell-through rates. So Hardeman County, we got 10 pending, 41 active, 21 sold in the last 6 months. So it looks like it's kind of picking up in demand. Here, let's see where this is at. Right next to it. Yeah, so closer to Memphis. As you guys know, Memphis is not the nicest city in the country. A little dangerous. I'm going to remove that. I think it's just too rural in my opinion. There are good stats, but like over the last 6 months, it's not the greatest compared to what we've been seeing. Let's see. Carroll County, we got 45 active, 8 pending, 26 sold in the last 6 months. Clay County, pending, where's this? So we got Clay County up here, 33 active, 7 pending. Not much demand over the last 6 months. I'm going to remove that. Days on market's low though, but over the last 6 months, there hasn't been a lot of activity.
Rylan, are these saving to a certain place that someone can come back to at a later time to find?
Correct. So all these markets, they get saved into your section called My Markets, and they also get saved into campaigns. So when you save these save forever, and you can also take notes on them, and you can remove them if you don't like them. You can also open them in the data platform when you're ready to export. But what we can do, like we talked about Carthage, we like that it's close to Highway 40. We like that there's 31 sold in the last 6 months. We can take notes on this. We can go into our campaign section. And we can go to that market. So that was, which one was it? Was it Smith? I'm forgetting.
We were looking at Smith. I think maybe it was Smith.
Yeah. So Smith, we could have said very high demand, 4 to 100 acres. Close to Highway 40, good commute to Nashville. Okay, so you can always take notes and this saves, and you can always open it back up.
That was a question from Brittany. Brittany, hopefully that answered your question. You've got a lot of questions coming in.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and answer some of these questions right now. All right, there's a lot in here. Let's see.
Yeah, that particular one was like what you were working, so that's why I thought I would ask.
Yeah. So Brittany asked, how do you account? So summer is always the hottest time to sell land. The whole goal of your land business should be to market early. So like market January, February into the springtime, and ideally have pieces of land that you can sell in summer. So we always hit really hard at the beginning of every year and have as much inventory as possible going into summer. So you'll see that spring and summer, that's usually the highest demand. And you can identify seasonality by looking at our 3 month, 6 month, 1 year metrics and identify, oh, like maybe this market is heating up. You'll see that pending goes up in some areas, whereas the last 6 months it hasn't sold as much. So that can tell you like, oh, this market's picking up or maybe something's happening out here. But you can identify seasonality by looking at our 6 month, 1 year, 3 month, 1 month, pending, all of that, and identify seasonality. But you'll notice like, or you want to be careful when you're targeting specific areas. Like if you hit up the northern parts of America, we get snow in the winter. So you don't want to acquire land when it's October or November, because that's going to sit on the market all the way until springtime. And that's happened to us many times. We bought land in northern Idaho, northern Washington, and you can't even access it because there's snow. So you want to be careful of those areas. Make sure you're choosing markets in the winter that don't get snowed out, that you can access. And then in the summer, just really pick up your supply so that you have a lot to sell, because all the sellers want to buy in the summer. You'll notice as well, I guess what I've noticed seasonality wise in terms of land acquisitions, a lot of people want to sell in January. I think it's Christmas time. Like I think income's at a lower point. So sellers are more likely to sell their land in the earlier parts of the year. So again, I like picking up land earlier in the year and then selling it in the summer. But we never turn down our marketing. We're always buying land at every point in the year. I'm just saying like the highest demand is always in the summer. So right now you'll be seeing the highest demand that you've seen all year. And we've had properties flying off the shelves lately because we're kind of at that midsummer point. Let's go through some more questions. Bowden asks, will there be a link of a recording of this? Yes, you guys will get recordings of all of these. Brittany asked, will you discuss getting more granular with the zip code level? Yes, we're going to go into that in a second. Thomas asked, why filter for a sample size on active instead of 1 year sold? So we want there to be an active supply, just statistically, to have a better sample size to go off of. I'm not saying steer away from going after only sold. There are like little markets that maybe have 0 active and 10 sold in the last 6 months. I don't think it's enough to like make an educated guess that there's demand there. But if you do guess, it could like be very good for you in that like nobody really understands that market. And then you discover that it's a very, very hot market. But if you have like a higher sample size of active, that means you're confident if there's a high sell-through rate that there's just statistics backing that there's high demand. But if there's just 0 active on the market and 8 sold in the last year, like those could have been sitting on the market for a while and there wasn't a very high active supply. So again, like it all comes down to sample size. We want a decent sample size. I always say like choose a market that has at least 10 active properties to go after and then look for higher sell-through rates than that. Matthew asked, you determine demand for county based on 6 months sell-through rate. Yeah, I like 6 month and I like 1 year. 6 month, I've been using a little more lately because this year has been different than last year. I think demand's gone down a little bit in a lot of different places. So I've been going off of 6 month a lot more this year, since that kind of tells us what this year's market has done. Last year's market was just a little different. I think we've experienced a little bit of a downtick, a little bit of a land recession this year. So 6 month analysis is going to be more advantageous for you. Brian said he bought 70 acres in New Hampshire in December. Oh man, when did that thing sell? Lindsay asked, do you actually hold off on selling till summer when the market is better? No, I always list it for sale. If I get a good deal, even if it's in a snowy place, if it's a good enough deal, I'll buy it and I'll just list it on the market. Maybe it sells. So I'm never slowing down. I'm just saying like a really good time to like, I guess, lower your criteria for buying land is earlier in the year, like springtime, because a lot of it's going to sell. Whereas you need to be a little more picky as you go into winter because some of those can sit on the market a long time. All right, guys, I know there's a ton of questions I didn't answer. I'll try to get to those at the end, but I'm going to jump into choosing zip codes. So Smith County is one we really liked. We also liked, is it Hardeman? I think we removed that. I'm going to remove that. We liked Chester. And then I'm going to choose one more of this strategy. So usually I'll choose like three counties at a time, and then we're going to go down deeper for the mailing strategy. So I'm going to choose one more county. Trousdale, 30 active, 1 pending. There's not a lot pending there. Let's look at this one. Robertson County, 99 active, 4 pending, 31 6 months sell-through. I don't really like that. Lewis County, 47 active, 27 to the last 6 months. Where's this Carroll one again? I think I selected this one already. Right here. So we got Carroll County, more of a rural market, but it's picking up. 45 active, 8 pending. 38 sold in the last year, 26 sold in the last 6 months. So we got a 58% 6-month sell-through rate. That's telling us it's a healthy market. So I'm going to add that. So now, guys, we have 3 markets we like. We have Carroll, we have Chester, and we have Smith. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at Gini. So I'm going to tell you guys what Gini means. So just listen very carefully. Gini is the indicator that tells us how easy it's going to be to price that market. Okay, so basically what Gini collects is all of the sales in a specific acreage range. So I'm going to adjust my acreage range to smaller increments. So I'm going to go 5 to 10 acres. And I'm going to go to my markets to do this. So as you can see here, we have our 3 markets that we chose. I'm going to go to a smaller increment, and we're going to start analyzing Gini. So what Gini does is it collects all the sales prices in the acreage range of 5 to 10 acres, okay? And it's telling us how closely together all those sold prices are to each other. And this is important because you guys will notice some markets you choose, the west side of the county is going to sell a lot higher than the east side of the county, or vice versa. And we want to avoid that because our pricing is going to be off. We want to be as accurate as possible when we're pricing our markets, because we want to make sure we're on the dot when we make that offer. We want to have to go back and make a different offer. When we send that letter, we want it to be what we want to buy it at. So Gini is telling us how close together the price on the west side to the east price. If it's a low Gini, a 5-acre piece on the west side should trade at the same value as a 5-acre piece on the right side. So right here, we're seeing a Gini of 70.94, which is a very, very high Gini. Okay, so a 5-acre on the west side is probably trading a lot higher than a 5-acre on the east side because we're close to Nashville. So pricing's all over the place. If we had a Gini under like 30, that's going to tell us, hey, this market, like, it's all about the same value. A 5-acre on this side is about the same value as a 5-acre on this side. Let's go over to this. So Carroll County, Gini is a little lower, and that makes sense because it's more rural. It's kind of outside of any metros. There's like one little town in the middle, but land value over here is probably about the same as land value over here. It's not changing much, which means it's a lower Gini. And this helps us because it makes it easier to price on our mailers. And that's important. We don't want to drop the ball on our mailers. We don't want to overvalue a cheap piece of land. So targeting lower Gini just means it's going to be easier for us to price that out, which we'll go over in a later webinar. Gini on this, it's a little higher. And what you want to do is you want to look at Ginis for multiple acreage bands. So this one was high, but let's see what 10 to 20 is doing. So Gini is a little lower for 10 to 20, bigger acreage. Let's look what it's doing for 20 to 40, a little lower. So for some reason, our 5 acres, they're all over the place. Whereas our bigger acreage pieces, they're a little easier to price. Let's look at this other county. So 44 Gini here. $30.85 Gini here, 25.47. So it's pretty consistent. Like, it's a decently easy area to price. Like, you're not going to miss too bad out here. This one, so 20 to 40, 18.26. We'll just go in the reverse order. 13.67. 63.85. So what I'm seeing is, like, Gini, in the 5 to 10 acreage range, there's a lot of demand, and maybe certain areas people want a 5-acre over the other. Maybe 5 acres in Henderson are trading a little higher. But for the most part, I would say Carroll County was the lowest Gini. So I really like this county. So this is probably what we're going to market after. Now, again, it's rural, so we might be targeting larger acreage of land. So we can see what they're selling at. So let's see what 5 to 10 acres are selling at. We can do this. Let's see. Median price. So the median price of a 5 to 10 acres, 45 grand. So, I mean, that probably fits our criteria. Let's see what 2 to 5s are doing. Let's see what that median is. Median price is 24.5. So I'm probably going to do like 5 acres and above for Carroll County, Tennessee. But this isn't where we stop. We don't just export this county. We want to go even deeper. So this is where you really experience the power of this tool. So we can go to the zip code approach, and we're going to choose the best performing zip code inside of this county. So this is like hyper targeting sniper approach, because we want to really choose the best of the best of the best market when we're mailing, because it's expensive. So what we're going to do is we're going to open zip code. And okay, so Carroll County, Tennessee, I'm going to go back into market research. I'm going to type in Carroll, and we're going to put Tennessee, and then we're going to zoom in here. I might lose that filter. My bad, guys. Yep. Okay. No, I didn't lose it. Perfect. All right. So this is showing us now the heat map of the county. So we're going to go to 6 months sell-through rate, and we're going to push our range back to 5 to 100 acres. And we're going to identify what's causing most of the demand in this county. Because the county told us, hey, there's high demand out here, but in most cases, there's just one little area that really accounts for that demand. So we have our heat map at 6 months sell-through rate, or sorry, 6 months sold. We want to go to 6 months sell-through rate. And green is going to be the higher demand areas. So you'll see in 38201 zip code, we have 3 active, and we have 6 sold in the last, or 4 sold in the last 6 months, 7 sold in the last 1 year. So there's a lot of demand here. So we're going to actually export data from this one. So I'm going to add that one. Huntington, we have a larger sample size, which is good. There's 21 active. It's making up for a lot of the supply, but 14 sold in the last 6 months, which is good. 19 in the last year. Let's look at these little pockets over here. 3 active, 2 pending right now, 4 sold in the last 6 months. I'm going to add this. I'm going to add, let's see. That was part of the same one. This one's a little lower demand. There's a lot active, nothing really selling. And then, I don't know, there's just a lot of supply here. So I'm probably just going to pinpoint these little micro markets. So I see a question in the chat. Is there a reason you're not starting at the zip code level instead of starting at the county and then dropping it down to zip code? So the whole reason I start at the county level is that shows us this region is hot, right? It shows us the county's hot inside the state. Now, we don't want to go choose a random zip code with these stats, 3 active and 7 sold last year, because there's not a lot of, there's not a large sample size to go off of. So we want to like rank demand, like supply and demand off of a larger sample size. The reason why we start at county is it takes in all this data in this whole region, and it tells us, hey, this region's hot. It makes me more confident to believe in this lower sample size, high demand data set that there actually is that here. In some cases, you might see these numbers, but you actually go and buy the piece of land, and it turns out there's not a lot of demand out here, and that's because you relied on a low sample size. We choose these little micro markets with lower sample sizes because we're confident on the larger sample size of this whole region of the county. So we want to funnel our way down to a region, and then like a high demand region, and then we want to pinpoint the really hot region of that sub-region. So we're just funneling down our market research. Okay. So at the end of the day, we've chosen 38201. This is going to be a small data set when we export it. We also chose 38317, and we can go identify these in our markets. We're going to not go after 38342, and we're not going to go after 38344, just because there's too much supply in this area. So we want to go after the places where there's just limited supply. Okay, so these are now added to my markets. So we can we can export this right now, and then we can add these zip codes as well. So I'm just going to open this up, and I'm going to remember we added 38317 to that data set. So we're going to open it. Okay, and now we are going to add our zip codes. So we have 38201. Yep, 38201. Click enter, and then we also have 38317. Okay, now we're going to choose our acreage range. I'm going to go 5 to 100. Okay, and you'll see, okay, we've got 1,868 parcels in this area. This is all real estate in these counties. It's a very limited zip code. Okay, and we're going to hit a bunch of filters, and you're going to be surprised at how low this data set gets. Okay, so we're entering a new part of the product that we created. So I'm going to go over some statistics, okay? So if you guys are using DataTree, you're using PropStream, LandVision, when you select vacant land, it's going to give you a whole lot of properties that you're never, ever going to want to buy based on a few different reasons, okay? So if you guys have done these mailers, you'll realize you get responses from people that own landlocked properties. So properties that don't have access to roads, properties that are in a flood zone and you can't build on it because it's flooding all the time. You have a property that's too steep. Maybe there's a 20% slope on it and there's no way you could ever build on that, even with stilts. Maybe you have a property in a wetland and it's like literally a pond. You have a property that DataTree said it was vacant land, but it's not actually vacant land. There's a house on it. All these reasons are reasons why you would not buy that piece of land. And when we're marketing, we're sending mail to these pieces of land that we would never, ever want to buy. Mail is expensive. Mail postage rates went up recently. Mail, it's like, I think it's 59 or 60 cents to send if you buy it in bulk now. You don't want to be wasting money on sending letters to these pieces of land that you would never buy for one of those reasons. And what I did a case study when I compared county data that you can get from DataTree and you compare it to Land Insights after we apply these filters. 54% of your data set comprises of a property with one of those problems that would make it unbuildable. 54% of your mail that you're sending out is being wasted. So keep that number in your head. Over half of your mail that you're sending out is comprised of land that you would never buy for one of those reasons. It might be landlocked. It might be way too steep to build. It might have a wetland or a flood zone. You're just blowing that money away if you're not filtering these things out. Luckily, we've added AI to Land Insights, and we can remove all of those for you. So you're going to see right now, let's just put in land use. This is what the county tags it as. So we'll go vacant. Never mind on that. So let's just say you wanted to go after vacant land. Like the easiest way back when you use data tree, or if you use data tree, is you go total structure square foot 0 to 200. Okay, that gives you 949 parcels. Now let me add all the AI filters, and you're going to see how much money you're wasting by not using the AI scrubs. So what we have is 5 to 100 acres, and we're going to start scrubbing. So vacant land only AI filter. So there's actually 733 parcels that are vacant. That 0 to 200 square foot didn't work. There were structures within that. And then we're going to remove bad slope. So this removes everything based on our algorithm that's way too steep to build. This is a flat area, so there's nothing too steep to build. Remove landlocked properties. 566 are remaining now. We're going to deduplicate the owners. 372. We're going to put our wetland coverage to 50%. So we're going to remove anything that has over a 50% wetland on it. And then we're also going to do the same thing for flood zones. So now we're left with 351 properties. If you exported with data tree, you would have had 900. We just whittled this down all the way to 351. Now every single piece of property you're going to be mailing to, it is A+ property. So we can see all these here. Road access, everything in purple is what we're targeting. Road access here, nice piece. Road access here, there's another one we're marketing, another one we're marketing. These are all A+ prime properties. Okay. Now I don't stop here. When you're doing mail and you want to be really efficient, what I realized is, for the most part, like I think it's over 80% of the deals we've ever done, the owner owned the property for more than 5 years. So we want to do a minimum of 60 months ownership. So now we're at 304. Another thing we did in a study is we realized people were aged over 50 or more. You can identify that if you skip traced. If you wanted to take it another further, you can see the age of the person based on the skip trace. So for the most part, the land we bought was from people that owned the land for over 5 years, and they were aged 50 or higher. So other things you can do on our platform is you can choose out-of-state owners, so people who don't live within the state, which brings your data set very significantly down. I would rather do out of county, but again, you're left with not that much. So generally when I'm mailing, I leave these open, but if you want to take it a step further, you can. We even go to the extent of out of zip code owners. So the owner lives outside the zip code, but he's in the same county. This just means he doesn't own land like right next to his house, because it's very difficult to buy land from people who live right next to the house. So generally I will select this when I'm mailing. So we're left with 128 parcels at this point. All right, and then you always want to exclude certain keywords. You want to exclude owners with the name cemetery in their name. You want to exclude Walmart, railroad, HOA. You want to exclude, let's see, electric. So you should build out a big list of names you're going to exclude. So these are all, we're searching the owner names and we're removing everyone that has these keywords, because these people would never sell their land to us. We only want to target people like mom and pop that have owned this land or it got passed down to them from a relative. We don't want to be buying from a railroad company. We don't want to be buying from a cemetery because it's a cemetery and there's dead people on the land. So build out an extensive list, and you can always save this filter so that you don't have to go back to it. You don't have to rebuild this every time. You can save this whole filter format that I built out, and go back to it when you want to export again. Okay. And then these are important when we're removing landlocked properties. If you want to include the highways, you want to include normal roads and local roads, you can select that. I always keep these all selected. Anything with road access, I want to keep in. I don't care if it's public, private, or it's on a highway. I want to keep that in. And we go to the extent of you can set the criteria for slope that you want to remove, but we've created an algorithm that works for every acreage. Basically, like, we know it's a horrible property if you select this. So anything that we remove it's going to be way too steep. So you can either go the easy route, select this, or you can go custom. 50% of the property has over 20%. It would remove that. So you can choose either one of these. I usually just leave it blank. For all the subdivide people out there, you can set the road frontage criteria that you want. So as you guys know, you need a lot of road frontage to do an exempt subdivide. So this property is a really good prime subdivide potential property. Because there's tons of road frontage, thousands of feet of road frontage here. So if you want to target these specific opportunities, you can put in that minimum. Like, let's say you want 1,000 minimum square foot, you can put in 1,000 feet here, and it's going to remove everything that has road frontage below that. But basically what it's calculating is how much of the property touches the road. So like this property, it's got tons of road frontage, 4,000 square feet of road frontage. So this is a really prime opportunity. We're in Tennessee. The exempt rules in Tennessee is you can stay above 5 acres and be exempt from the platting approvals. So it'll most likely get approved at that point. And I'm going to go over some other filters just so you guys can see these. Again, like, we give you access to so many different ones, and we have a whole course on all these filters. When you guys join Land Insights, you can see a course on how all these filters are used. But for the most part, these are the only filters I'm using in my business. You can go to the extent of seeing what the assessed value is at, the sales price, the last sale date, what kind of deed it was, any liens that they may have if you want to target people with outstanding taxes or liens, square footage. And then you have the option of skip tracing if you want to. Again, this is a mailing series, but if you wanted to skip trace for texting or cold calling, or maybe you wanted to try to get somebody's phone number that owns the land, maybe they reached out with a mailer and you can't get a hold of them after they sent you a letter back, you can try to skip trace them and get their phone number. So there's always the option of that, but we're not doing that in this export. What we're doing is we're just exporting this data set with the mailing information. So one thing we recently added is we have created an AI algorithm that calculates the value of the land. It's not 100% accurate, but it's very helpful. And in that data export, we'll tell you what we think the land is worth, and that can maybe help you with pricing. So now that we've stacked all these filters, we have A+ properties in an A+ county and an A+ zip code inside that county. I am very, very confident in this market. I'm very, very confident in all the deals that we're marketing to. So we've stacked a lot on it, and we've ended up with not that many parcels, but luckily, like, we have a clear system to easily identify all of these high demand zip codes and high demand counties within the state. So it's very repeatable, and you can easily build out a 10,000 mailer campaign for the month doing this strategy. So this is a very hyper-targeted strategy, and it's a hyper-targeted property strategy as well. We're choosing the best properties and the best zip code in the best county. So how confident do you guys feel about this data set? You feel like if you bought a piece of land, you'd feel confident selling it very quickly? Let me know, guys.
I've personally not seen anything this extensive. I think it's of great value, and Rylan, like you said, you know, the cost of postage is getting to be so much more. Right now it went up to 43 cents. So if this allows you to market to more properties that are of a better value or a better, a better chance of doing a deal on, it's a really smart tool from what I can see.
Yeah, like our whole the whole business model of Land Insights is to save everyone money. Like our whole goal is to save you guys money and make you successful in this business. If you guys aren't stacking these filters and you guys aren't removing the horrible properties, you're just throwing money away. When after you guys see this tool's capabilities, it's like, why would I not remove all of these horrible properties in my data set? I'm wasting 54% of that and mailing them when I would never buy this property in the first place. Like our whole goal should be to be marketing to only A+ properties, because in 2025, unfortunately, there's not as much demand as there was in 2021. 2021, you could get away with just blasting everyone in a county, not caring about what the property looked like at all. But in 2025, you have to be efficient to make it in this business. You have to only target A+ properties. You got to be very, very picky with the markets you choose. You can't get away with it anymore. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people that have had to give up their land business because they didn't adopt these new strategies. They were stuck in their old ways, targeting properties in Costilla County, Colorado that are 1 acre and nobody wants land there. And there's 1,000 other of those properties listed on the market. You can't get away with that anymore. You have to go after high demand areas. You have to have the best looking property in the market, and you need to be competitively priced. And that's what makes you money nowadays. If you don't stack all it up, you're going to lose. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and export this, guys. And we're just going to name this 38201 and 38317. 38317.
So Rylan, while you're doing that, there's a question here, and I find it interesting. It's Rent is asking, with this hyper-focused mailing, what kind of response rates are you getting versus the old-fashioned way? I don't have enough data on that yet, and you've been doing this for a bit now while you were developing the software. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so response rate, like it's not going to move a whole lot. What really affects your response rate with Land Insights is how good you are with pricing. So Land Insights allows you to price a lot better, but response rate with mail, it's not really going to change. If anything, it may get slightly worse because you're targeting valuable pieces of land. Somebody who owns a landlocked property in a hillside, they get a letter at a really high price that you just messed up on, they're going to call you and they're going to want to sell it. So your response rates, they might take even a hit. It might go down a little bit, just because you're only targeting the best properties. And anybody who owns a horrible property, they're more likely to pick up the phone and try to sell it to you because they're like, oh, damn, I just got an offer that's really good on this horrible piece of property. So response rates won't be affected much from this whole strategy. Where it's going to help you, where you're going to get a higher response rate, is going to be your pricing and your letter design, how your envelope looks, how your letter is designed. That's going to increase your response rate. How your website looks, how credible you look, your copy on your letters, that's what affects response rate. But these, like, there's not much of a change. Yeah. Where your response rate could be increased is if you choose a little honey hole market that nobody was thinking of before. If you send a letter to Aiken County, South Carolina, everyone and their mom is trying to get land there right now. Send a letter there, your response rate is going to be low. Whereas you choose this market, nobody really knows about this market. Your response rate is going to be higher because less landowners are getting letters in the mail offering to buy their land in this market.
Yeah, response rate's important because you have to have response to get deals, right? But
Right.
we really look at return on investment, and that's what you're doing, is you're bringing value to raise the return on investment. So maybe you'll mail half as many letters and get as many deals or more deals. So that in turn is going to increase your return on investment. So that's what, with everything that's senior to us, the return on investment or your KPIs are most importantly the return on investment. How much money did you spend and how much did you make is senior to us. But then you do need to also track your response rate, because you need to know if you're not getting any response in some area, kind of like what Rylan was talking about, because you got to look and see, why am I not getting a response? Did I price these wrong? You got to really evaluate why you're not getting a response. But we don't hang our hat on that. It's one or two really great responses is better than 10, like you were just saying, that are properties you'd never want to buy.
Exactly. Like, we want to avoid that altogether, because when you get a phone call from somebody who owns a horrible piece of land, that's probably going to be a 15-20-minute phone call. You're going to get all excited about it. Like, oh, I got a deal. Let me go look at it on Land Insights, or let me go look at it on my platform. And then it turns out it's a horrible piece of land. You just spent the time talking to that person on the phone. You got excited about it. You wasted mental energy. And then you got let down because it was a horrible piece of land. So you took the phone call, you comped the deal, and you messed with your mental energy, which is the most important part of your business, in my opinion. That's wasted time. That's wasted money. It's a lot of waste, and we just want to avoid that. We want to be as simple as possible. Every phone call that comes through should be a great property and a great market. That's the ideal setup, and that's what we provided to you guys, is the opportunity to create that business. And before we had all this, like, I had to suffer through all that. And a lot of you guys, you don't understand the pain that is. It's very painful to spend $5,000 on a marketing campaign, get a few responses, and think like, oh, shoot, I got a deal. Let's go. I got a purchase agreement. Let's go. You open up that property and it's horrible. You would never buy it. Like, it's the biggest pain. It was like the bane of my existence for a while until we built this. So it's really excited to be able to offer this to you guys. Some people in the chat are asking if you can manually scrub these out if you want to look at them individually. Yes, you can. You can click manually scrub, and you can just navigate between them. And we can look at this piece. So this piece, like, if we wanted to change the tag on it, we could, and we can download it and it'll show us that tag. So maybe like you were going after subdivide opportunities. This one you could probably subdivide into 2 pieces. It's 5 acres, so you might have to get a plat and you might have to get it approved, but you have 2 access points. Maybe you can like chop off this piece and then sell this piece together. So that could be a subdivide opportunity. You can click yes. But you can go through all of them and remove anything you don't like. But I personally don't do that. I don't have the time for that. I like to scale. I'm at a very, very high scale. And then all the people in my inner circle are also at a very high scale. There's one of my friends, he's doing 30,000 mailers per month right now. I've heard people like say they're doing that, but I don't believe they're doing it. This guy, he's actually sending 30,000 mailers per month. So it's insane. And he's doing it all with this business model. Start at the state, go down to the county, choose the best zip code, rinse and repeat. Choose all the best zip codes that you can find with this strategy, and is able to scale to 30,000 letters per month. And because of that, he's crushing it in 2025. Whereas I'm having conversations with people that aren't doing this, they're not crushing it. So there's just something to be had with this system. It's scalable and it's very, very efficient. All right, so I'm going to download my results and I'm going to show you what this spreadsheet looks like. All right, so we have the APN, the parcel number, acreage, calculated acreage. There's a lot of fluff you can remove. I just removed calculated acreage. We don't need that. We only go off of acreage. Parcel square foot, we don't need that. All we really need is what's needed in the letter and all the information you want to keep for yourself. So I like to keep the coordinates. I like to keep our link to Land Insights. So let's find it. Like this is a link to Land Insights. We just copy this link and we open it up. It's going to go right to that property. So you can put this in your CRM and you can easily access that deal. This person calls in, you ask them for maybe like the letter number that you put on their letter in the top left corner or something. You can easily identify that, pull it up, comp it, make sure it's a good deal, so on and so forth. So you always want to keep those in your data set. You want to keep all the relative data in your data set. So we'll get into like pricing out this list on next Tuesday. But yeah, I'll go over all the data you want to remove and keep, but it's extensive and you just got to filter it out, and I'll show you guys how to filter it out. We also put in the market value, so the AI comp value that we came up with. We think this one's worth $42,221. This one we think is worth $160,000. So these can be helpful when you're pricing out your mailers. But yeah, this is the data set. On Tuesday, we will go over scrubbing all of this out. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show you guys. Just the simple, scalable, and efficient process for sending out mail in 2025.
Yeah, I know we're running a little long here, and I was going to talk a little bit about, how to prepare your list to send to Rocket Print, and I can go over that briefly at the beginning of Thursday's webinar. All of these are going to be taped, so you can, if for some reason you're not available Thursday when we're going over best practices for a letter that'll outperform others. The one thing I'll tell you is when you work with us, if you haven't already, you get assigned a campaign coordinator who's in production, and they will help coordinate all of this for you. But we can go over those items on Thursday. The beautiful thing we do that most of our competitors don't do is most databases, the property data updates every 30 days. Because of that, we actually, it's a postal regulation. We'll take your list, even though it's a brand new list, and we're going to process it and remove invalids, undeliverables, and we're going to update for change of address. So things happen to lists in those 30 days that make it, and things like undeliverables can be something as simple as we were talking about snow earlier, like the snowplow coming through and taking someone's mailbox out. That would be undeliverable. That would be something that the list source wouldn't know. But we do actually scrub your list. We call it scrubbing, but it's really running through the postal software up front to remove those. And we can provide those to you if you want to skip trace them to find out why the post office is deeming them, especially invalid. So that means there's a mixed up zip code, those kinds of things. So there's a lot of services we provide beyond you actually purchasing the list that most of the competitors don't provide. But the big key thing is you're going to have this person in production that you can email, you can call, you can upload things into your portal, but lots of accessibility and lots of hand holding for anyone who wants to discuss anything that might be in particular important to you to make sure you maintain within your list. But again, I can go over a couple little key points on Thursday at the beginning because we'll have time then. All of this was so important, I didn't want to interrupt, but I want everybody to know that we can give you some more information on that as well.
Yeah, guys, and I'll chime in as well. Like Rocket Print, I've used other sources, and I always come back to Rocket Print. Everyone like top in the game, they're all using Rocket Print. It's the best deals, and the quality of deliverability is like the best. So they go to the extent of checking all these mailing addresses and making sure they're deliverable. If there's any like problems with the address, maybe it's spelled incorrectly, they're not going to mail it to them. So deliverability is really good. And just it's a seamless process. You send them the list, you have your template. It's really good. It's very quick. And I can't stand behind Rocket Print enough. They're the best service I've worked with, and I'll continue working with them forever. So yeah, Deb is going to take over a lot tomorrow with all of our template designs, how to stay effective, how to stand out with your mailers. But today was just market research, exporting data. Tuesday, we're going to go over pricing. And then Thursday, we'll get into the fun stuff, which is kind of building out a system that turns your business into a real business, that gets you outside of that business. So with that, I'm going to drop a couple links. So with Land Insights, if you guys are interested in joining, you need to book a demo call with one of our salespeople, and we'll even show you more about the product. If you have interest right now, you can go ahead and book that demo call right now at landinsights.co/apply. So I'm going to type that in here, landinsights.co/apply. So in order to subscribe, you need to book a demo call. We'll go over the product. We'll also give you 1,000 free leads. So we will do another demo and actually give you leads that you can mail out. We got a text like a couple weeks ago of a guy. He didn't even end up subscribing to Land Insights yet, but he went and mailed that list and he made like 40 grand on the deal or something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then he ended up subscribing. So
yeah.
It all came back to us. So yeah, you'll get 1,000 free leads in a market. And in addition to that, if you guys end up subscribing to Land Insights, we're gonna give you guys 25,000 free credits, which is equivalent to 5,000 records exported. So it's a really good deal for you guys to get your mailers out. And then Deb, where can everyone go for Rocket Print, and what do you guys have to offer?
Yeah, so we're offering any new client a special where you can buy your first 5,000 piece letter package and with color and get a $300 off on that. So that's the base entry level. We have other for people who are interested in larger mailings or larger packages. That's just larger. It's going to be a larger amount. And then on not this Thursday, next Thursday, we're going to talk about all of our digital online products. Anyone who's watching can get 20% off of those as well. So we have multiple offers going on, and we'll be running a sale in conjunction with the webinars. So you can just go to the rocketprintandmail.com/Land Insights, and there's a form there to fill out, and someone will contact you, or you can always call us at 1-800-442-0112. So whatever's easiest for you. If you fill out the form online, we'll send you some basic information via email if that's easier for you, and then someone will try to call too. But we're here, so whatever works best for you.
All right, guys, I know there's a lot of questions I wasn't able to get around to. Unfortunately, we're running a little over. But if you guys have questions, like, book a demo call. Our sales people are very open to answering those questions, and they're more than credible to answer those questions as they're running their own land business. So if any of those questions weren't answered, feel free to book a demo call and ask those there, and we're more than happy to help you out. But yeah, guys, hopefully you got some value from this. Give me a shout if you thought that was valuable, and I'll see you guys all Thursday.
You're serious about flipping land for predictable profit, and you want to plug into the exact system our students are using to close their first deal or their next 10 deals, then tap the video right here. It's a free 15-minute strategy call where we're going to pull back the curtain and show you the exact LIA system that our students are using right now. We'll show you the entire process A to Z on how you can start landing deals in the next 90 days or less. Slots tend to fill up fast. Grab your spot now. And I look forward to showing you the exact LIA land flipping playbook that I've been using for the last 6 years, and that nearly 500 other LIA members have used today. Click it, and I'll see you inside.